Good morning, and welcome back to the Daily Trucking Market Update podcast. I'm your host, Driven, and on this show, I dive into the markets to keep you truck drivers, you owner operators, up to date so you can best position your truck to make the most money. Now, I'll be using the DAT load board, and I appreciate them sponsoring this video. And in return, they've provided you with the link down in the description box for 10% off for your first 12 months, so check it out. Now, stick around. I got a dad joke to tell, and then we'll dive right in.
Rolling down the highway, sun just breaking through. Radio's playing loud, the show's for me and you. Learn how to book your loads and make that money flow. Keep the shiny side up wherever we go.
Now, all that I ask for the little chuckle, or maybe not, is to hit that like button and maybe consider subscribing if you get some value from this, or maybe just a laugh. Good morning. Before we get into the dad jokes today, just a couple of quick things. Number one, I apologize for how late this came out today. I was having technical difficulties. I'm just happy I was even able to get it out today because I had an announcement to make. So this week by Wednesday, the Spotify podcast will be going. I am potentially going to add flatbed as well. It would be a completely separate podcast, and I don't think I'm going to start that up on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Leave comments down below if you are flatbed, if you'd like to see flatbed, how you would ingest that information. If you would prefer to see it on YouTube or if you prefer it on Spotify. I'd prefer it on Spotify, honestly. I think that I need to grow the audience over there more or use outside sources. YouTube is slower to grow, and it's just because this channel is old, right? It's been around for a while. It's got over 100,000 subscribers, and it's kind of locked in its ways as far as the algorithm's concerned. It considers this channel a beginner truck driver channel. So it would take a long time for me to swap all that over. So I prefer outside sources. If you have a different platform that you would like to see it on, let me know. Right now, Spotify is definitely going to be a thing. And I'm considering TikTok. I'm going to break this video down today, and I'm going to like I was going to post portions of it on TikTok. And I want to see how that goes. I want to see if it's digestible, because obviously that's that's vertical and this is horizontal. So I want to see the difference between the two. But anyway, those are what I'm considering right now. And I'm doing Spotify. I'm saying Spotify only this week simply because they have a video format. I didn't know that. I found that out this weekend. So it's super, super easy for me to just also post it over there. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to get into the dad jokes. Thanks for sticking through that. How did the skeleton know it was going to rain on Halloween? He felt it in his bones. And we get a two for today because it's Monday, right? So that was the weekend. This is Mondays. What sound does a witch's car make? Broom, broom. That's a good one. All right. Well, let's get into the way. Now, this is weatherstreet.com. I highly recommend that you use something to, look at the weather for the day. This is probably not the best format for you, but this is the one that I chose because it looks the best for YouTube. We got a pretty big storm up there in the northwest, spanning or coming all the way across, about halfway across Montana, spreading down into Cali. It's dumping some snow down there in Cali. It's dumping snow over there as far as Nevada. You're even getting some over there in Utah. So you're getting a lot in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana, though. So if you're up there in that northwest, just be very careful. And it's gonna move on. It's gonna spread eastward. So really, if you're anywhere over there, and it's gonna spread out too. If you're anywhere in Nevada, anywhere in California, the mountains of California, anywhere in Oregon, anywhere in Washington, essentially, anywhere for sure in Idaho, please keep an eye on that weather. I don't know how bad it's going to be, but I mean, regardless, it's snow. Snow is not usually bad, but it's ice. So certainly, I don't know if this is ice. That's not what I'm saying. Ice is bad. Certainly want to keep an eye on it though. And then, yeah, this storm's going to get really bad. I mean, tomorrow it's moving on. It's moving through Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, and it's going to dump a ton of snow. Idaho's still getting smoked tomorrow, and Montana's still getting it over there on that west side. And then as it moves on, it looks like this thing's going to get pretty severe in Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado. Yeah, it's moving slow too. It's going to dump all day tomorrow and into tomorrow night. And then it's going to turn to rain. And then it's going to rain basically coast to coast, north and south in the central portion of the United States. So that's a pretty bad storm. So I imagine that there's going to be lots and lots of snow with this thing. And then right behind it in a couple of days, you're going to have more snowstorms up there in the Northwest. The Northwest is going to get just absolutely smoked this week. So we're not going to go too much further than that. But yeah, keep an eye on the weather for sure if you're headed towards that western half of the United States. It's going to be pretty bad. Alrighty. Let's see here. All right. So this is where we start with the trucking market update. I like to start here on the national load counts. What this does is this gives us an idea of what's going on a statewide level. But now we need more than this. We need to break it down and look at the individual markets. A good example of this is there may be a ton of excess freight in California, but it's not going to be everywhere in California. And if you're in that wrong market, you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? We do this to understand where we want to position our truck for the highest rates, as well as the most negotiating power. That's why I do this entire podcast. So let's get into the states. Alabama, there's 787 loads in with 441 loads out. So pretty poor, but the norm for Alabama. Arkansas, 360 loads in with 531 loads out. So despite being well above that 50-50 line there, and 50-50 being load to trucks, right? The first number I say are the amount of trucks that are going to be there. The second number is the amount of freight that's available for those trucks. So despite being well above that mark, though, it's surrounded by states that are not in good shape. So unfortunately, there's not a ton of negotiating power there. Arizona, 538 loads in to 566 loads out. So fascinating for Arizona. Actually right there, sitting there at that 50-50 line. Normally they're way below that, but they've had some freight lately. So California, 1,822 loads in, 3,703 loads out. Now I don't know if this is because I'm a little bit later than usual. Maybe they've had more time to post some loads, but way above. I mean, that's above a 2-to-1 ratio for California. That's off the charts. That's way up there. You have a ton of negotiating power there in California. They certainly don't want freight sitting there, and 1 out of every 2 loads is going to sit there. So you have negotiating power there in California. Use it. Get the money. They will move if you educate yourself and talk to them the right way. Don't demand, but educate. You educate them. Trust me, you're not educating them. They know all these numbers, but if you educate them, essentially telling them that you are educated, they will not try to take advantage of you. Colorado, 651 loads in, 274 loads out. It's kind of the norm for Colorado. Connecticut, 277 loads in, 115 out. DC, 3 loads. Delaware, 78 loads in, 55 loads out. Florida, 2,569 loads in, 589 loads out. So horrendous shape as normal for Florida. Georgia, 2,271 loads in, but they have 1,161 loads out. Obviously, that's horrendous shape, but that is almost double the amount of production that they normally have. That being said, it's still terrible shape. So, but a lot more production, which I guess is a move in the right direction. Iowa, 453 loads in to 690 loads out. So really good shape for Iowa. Love to see that start to the week. You very likely have that negotiating power there. It's going to be dependent on the Dakotas, but the Dakotas aren't going to eat up that much freight. So certainly good shape for Iowa, and Illinois is in good shape too. So definitely have the negotiating power there in Iowa. Idaho, 93 loads in, 338 loads out. So excellent shape, excellent start to the week for Idaho. It looks like they're gonna have to pay all the money, especially with all those snowstorms that are up there. So don't run for cheap if you're up there in the Northwest. Illinois, 1,586 loads in, 2,388 loads out. So really good start to the week for Illinois. Love to see that. Not in huge shape, right? But because the majority of that area, just that whole area, they've been well above that 50-50 line there, which means they have excess of freight. When there's an excess of freight or a demand for drivers, they have to pay more, right? So whether that's they're already posting it for a higher number on the load boards, or they're also probably negotiating as well. The Midwest is pretty good shape. I'm not gonna say great, but it's in pretty good shape, and we're starting to see that. Those numbers have been getting better and better as the weeks have progressed here the last couple of months. Indiana, 896 loads in, 1,429 loads out. So a very nice start to the week for Indiana. Not the best start that they've ever had, but a very nice one. We like to see that out of Indiana. Kansas, 353 loads in, 489 loads out. Really good start for Kansas this week. Kentucky, 696 loads in to 795 loads out. Love to see that. Kentucky was able to hold on last week, but unfortunately, Tennessee was in such poor shape that it ate up a lot of Kentucky's excess last week. We'll see. Louisiana, 399 loads in, 380 loads out. So decent start to the week for Louisiana, even though I know it's below that 50-50 line. Not bad, though. Massachusetts, 460 loads in, 249 loads out. Maryland, 532 loads in, 375 loads out. So not a good start for Maryland, unfortunately. Starting way behind the 8 ball there. That loads in number, that's high, even for Maryland. So unfortunately. Maine, 109 loads in to 127 loads out. Michigan, 663 loads in, 1,049 loads out. Love to see that. Love to see that start to the week for Michigan. Michigan is one of our favorite states lately for freight, right? Those Great Lakes states up there have just been, excellent shape. Next is Minnesota at 528 loads in to 854 loads out. There's a lot of excess freight up there. A lot of the snowbirds don't want to go up there. So you can make your best money up there going where people don't want to go. You make more money, like the less that people can do something. Obviously, you get paid more. Brain surgeons get paid more because not very many people can do it. But the higher the demand is for something, obviously, the more they have to pay. They got a lot of snowbird truck drivers out there. They don't like to mess with the snow. Hey, I don't blame them. It's not fun, but I don't know. If you're willing and able, you should, because you get paid more. Pretty easy, but just you got to take care of your truck. Make sure that fuel doesn't freeze. Missouri, 706 loads in, 996 loads out. Excellent start to the week for Missouri. Unfortunately, it's surrounded by states that don't have a lot of freight. Mississippi, 307 loads in to 391 loads out. Same story for Mississippi, but good start. Montana, 68 loads in, 144 loads out. Interesting. North Carolina, 1,765 loads in, 690 loads out. Awful shape for North Carolina. North Dakota, 53 loads in, 165 loads out. So that's normal for them, that 3-1 right there. It seems like you almost always have negotiating power up there in North Dakota. Almost always. We've only seen like 1 or 2 episodes, not even weeks, episodes, where it was less than 2-1 up there in North Dakota. So from what I've seen, you have always had negotiating power. That being said, is it always going to be that way? No. Okay. There's no guarantees in life, but the vast majority of the time, there's the negotiating power there. Nebraska, 252 loads in to 217 loads out. New Hampshire, 136 loads in to 51 loads out. Jersey, 835 loads in, only 1,063 loads out. So it's above that 50-50 line there, but not the best start to the week for Jersey. That production number is a little low. New Mexico, 182 loads in, 98 loads out. Nevada, 287 loads in, 443 loads out. Great start for Nevada to the week. Those are a little bit above average on production and just normal numbers for trucks in. So love to see that. New York, 825 loads in, 1,122 loads out. Decent start for the week for New York. A little bit above normal, but like not much to speak of, right? Ohio, 1,605 loads in. It's high for Ohio. 1,893 loads out. So Ohio is, obviously it's above that 50-50 mark there. It has more freight than normal, but not by much. It has a lot more trucks headed in than normal. So this may pop up red on the heat map, but I'm going to say that we need to keep an eye on Ohio this week. It may not be the best state to go to for freight, which is also going to affect Michigan. I'm just saying it's a possibility. It may not work out that way, but it's certainly a possibility. With that many trucks headed into it on a Monday, that's way higher than normal. Way higher than normal. So I don't know what's going on there. Oklahoma, 550 loads in, 332 loads out. Oregon, 199 loads in, 377 loads out. So it's a good start to the week for Oregon. Not the greatest of starts, but there's so much snow up there this week that it's likely those northwestern states are going to get better and better as the weeks go on. Pennsylvania, 1,768 loads in, 1,953 loads out. So both of those numbers are way up. That production number's in decent shape for a Monday. That's a lot of trucks headed in, even for Pennsylvania on a Monday. It's interesting. But good shape, a good start to the week so far. We'll see. I'm interested to see, because there's so many trucks headed into PA and Ohio right there together, that it'd be interesting to see how this week kind of shapes out. Rhode Island, 73 loads in, 41 loads out. South Carolina, 858 loads in, 550 loads out. That's pretty poor even for South Carolina. South Dakota, 84 loads in, 115 loads out. Tennessee, 1,107 loads in to 907 loads out. That's just normal for Tennessee. Texas, 4,098 loads in, 2,946 loads out. Wow. So massive jump. That 4,000 mark, anything over that 4,000 mark for loads in is way above normal, even for the larger states, right? But almost 3,000 loads out, that's way up there too. Keep in mind, that's for the entirety of the state, right? But fascinating. Still not going to get paid a lot out of Texas. Don't get it twisted. Utah, 304 loads in, 371 loads out. It's a good start to the week for Utah. Virginia, 985 loads in, 639 loads out. Poor start to the week for Virginia, unfortunately. They can easily be right there at that 50-50 line, but they're not. Vermont, 42 loads in to 44 loads out. Washington, 384 loads in, 514 loads out. Good start to the week for Washington. Love to see it. Wisconsin, 837 loads in. That's way above normal. They're normally 500, maybe 600. But they still have 1,472 loads out. Why? Well, because there's extra freight up there, which means that they're paying more, which means that they're negotiating more, which means the truck drivers are making more money. I've been saying this for weeks. That's where you should be going. You can see that number is increasing. That's way up for Monday for Wisconsin. Position your truck accordingly and you'll make more money. That's where this is right there, Wisconsin. That's where your veterans are going right now. Guys that know what's going on. That the guys that do this for, I should say, that's where they're headed. West Virginia, 108 loads in to 162 loads out. And Wyoming, 57 loads in to 117 loads out. So moving on to the trend lines. These are updated weekly. So Mondays we go over these. The overall, first number is a week to week comparison. So it'll be last week to the week before. So that gives us an idea of what's going on in a short term. The second number is going to be year over year. So this is going to be September this year compared to September of last year. So keep that in mind as I fly through these. So the spot load posts week over week, it's down 8.3% overall, right? This is an overall number. And then year over year, it's down 13.1%. It's not a good, doesn't look good, right? The van load to truck ratio is down 8.8% week over week. And year over year, it's down 9.8%. The spot rates, though, are up 1.5%. So what happens? Why is that, right? And whenever we were positive the week before, why were the rates negative? Because it takes more time to move the rate number than it does the load number. Rates will slowly creep up the more demand that's there, right? These don't move in tandem. They don't move together. One follows the other. Now, what's interesting is that when that load to truck ratio drops, spot rates will drop much faster. And it's an education perspective, or it's directly related to how well people are educating themselves with the markets that they're in. So the ones that are looking at the load board, doing the homework, doing all the things, negotiating, they're getting better rates. Period. They're getting better rates. If you're not getting better rates, there's a reason. But anyway, the spot rate moves much slower than the load to truck ratio. But that's why you're seeing that up this week, because we're down in production this week. It looks, at least it seems that way, at least on the week over week basis. You may see that the spot rates will fall as we move throughout the week. I look at this every day, but I go in depth on Mondays only because these pretty much stay the same, right? Although we'll see what happens to the spot rates as the week goes on, and this week compared to next week. I'll remember that it's positive 1.5% for vans. But the year over year rate for vans is the same as it was last year. The flatbed load to truck, the load to truck ratio is down 8.1%, but year over year it's up 28.2%. That's horrendous. That just means last year was just awful for flatbeds. Crazy. The spot rates, though, are even week over week, but they're 3.6% higher this year than they were last year. And for reefers, real quick, week over week, it's down 17.5% for the load to truck ratio. And compared to last year, it's down 1.9%. The spot rates are the same as they were week over week, but they're down 2.5% compared to last year. Fuel price shows to be down 2.2%. We'll see. The national spot rate, like so the actual number to put on it for vans across the board in October, we're up 5 pennies from September to $2.02. For flatbed, we're up from September 3 pennies to $2.41. So I think that's actually a little bit of a slide because we were at 5 pennies, I believe. And reefer is up 1 penny, $2.39 compared to $2.38 in September. Look at that. Volumes climb after storms. And nope, this is the same number. So the fuel price per gallon is on average across the nation is $3.55. That isn't. I'm not sure why that says that, but that's the same. Anyway, so here's the heat map. This tells us exactly where the freight is located. Now, you can't look at this in any given day and just understand what's going on. It's something that takes some time. For instance, if you were to just look at this, it shows that you could just go to Spokane and make all the money, right? Well, if you don't know any better. There's not a ton of freight out there in this side of Washington, on this eastern side of Washington. What it's saying is that market is hotter than usual. So that just means that there's more freight than there is usual in the western half of Washington. Do you want to park your truck there? No, no. But you do want to go to Seattle. Seattle's in good shape. Seattle market's above average. Portland market's above average. It's showing the rest of Oregon. But if you are in either one of those, make sure you check both markets. Looking down to California now, sometimes on Mondays, that San Francisco market's in good shape because of the port that's there. But it's showing not just average, and the Sacramento market's below average. Ignore that northern half of California. You're not looking for freight there. You're just not. That being said, all the freight is down in that Los Angeles market. So all of that excess freight is down there in that Los Angeles market. That's wild. You should be making really good money out of the Los Angeles market. Really good. And they should be moving for you. They should be negotiating. Fascinating. In Nevada, the excess that's there is in the northern half. And Idaho, it's hotter up there in that northern half just because of the weather. That's all that is. Looking over at Texas, I'm going to give the thumbs up to Houston this week, even though typically Dallas, the markets are a little bit better pay-wise for Dallas. But you got the the market that's just west of Dallas is below average. Even though Dallas market's hot, so is Houston. But you've also, if you can't get a load out of Houston, the freight that's in Louisiana is all in the southern half. So it is possible to bounce over to Louisiana to get a load as well. So I'm going to give the thumbs up this week to Houston rather than Dallas. Although that's not normally the case. Normally it is Dallas. I will say that. If you go to Dallas instead of Houston, you're still in fine shape. You're still going to be just fine. Looking at that southeast portion, just the entirety of it, just avoid it if you can. You're not going to get paid well to go there. If you're a van, keep in mind, this is for vans. I'm talking to vans. I'm not talking to anyone else. I'm only talking to vans. That being said, the Memphis market is where you would want to go. Even the Atlanta market's lower than normal, below average. I say that it's below average because it is not red. It is a major hub and it is not red. If it is a major hub and it's not red, it is not for you. You're not going to make good money there. That's just a fact. So, yeah, just avoid that southeast portion. But if you have to go there, if you just have to go there, Memphis is probably your target. Looking in the Midwest, Kansas City is hot. Kansas City market's in good shape. St. Louis market is below average. Let's see here. In Chicago, a solid portion of the center of Illinois is above average. But the Chicago market's showing hot. And the markets that surround it are in good shape other than that tip of Indiana up there. And I mean, the tip of that Indiana that's up there, like there's just not a lot there. So sometimes that market's hot, but that market is not really going to affect Chicago all that much. So Chicago is a really good place to go to get good paying freight. But if you want the most negotiating power, head on up to Wisconsin. That Wisconsin looks like that Green Bay market is in really good shape. The market in between Chicago and Green Bay is above average. Not much to speak of. It's not hot, but it's above average. And then over in Minnesota, you got the Minneapolis market. It's showing to just be average, despite Minnesota being in good shape. But those were normal numbers out of Minnesota, so that may be why it's just showing average. And then over in Michigan, you get the western half, just above average, right? The numbers are good, though, out of Michigan, but it is going to be affected by Ohio. Look down at Ohio. Ohio normally is completely red on a Monday. And right now we only have one market that's hot. Well, you got two markets. You got that Northwestern market and then you got the Cincinnati market too. But majority of Ohio is not where it is normally sitting. And when you look over at Pennsylvania, the western half, the very northern portion is red, but like that's not where the majority of the freight's located. Majority of the freight is going to be located in Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh market. And so since it's just average, I'm going to go out on a limb unless they push production hard this week for whatever reason. I'm going to say Ohio's not going to be a great state to go to this week. We'll see. We'll see. I'm guessing, right? I'm guessing because I'm just taking the information that I'm given. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see it play out. The Philadelphia market is below average. I don't know what's going on with PA. That's interesting to see. But the central market, the central third, if you want to call it that, looks to be where the freight's at over in PA. The northern portion of New Jersey is where the freight's at. That's all. That's normal. That's normal stuff. So interesting. And then in Indiana, I'd skipped over it for some reason. The Indianapolis market is where the freight's located there. Kentucky looks like actually the Louisville market's okay. Not going to be great, but it looks like it's okay. And that's going to be the trucking market update today. So like I said, I do apologize for this coming out so late today. Bit of a bummer, but got a lot on the plate coming out for the channel and just really kind of the brand overall, right? Not necessarily just the channel, the brand. I really want to get this. I want to get this growing. It's not growing, and I knew that was a very real possibility whenever I decided to do this, and I decided to do this on the main channel. The algorithm is strong, and a lot because I took a 2-year break. I have a lot of subscribers that don't even go to YouTube anymore, that have lost that account, that aren't truck drivers anymore, and they're just never going to unsubscribe, right? And that kills your numbers. If you know anything about YouTube, it's a B to do this, but that's okay. It's okay. I know I appreciate all of you that are here. I really do. I'm never going to not post on this channel. That's something that is I can confidently say, or as long as I'm making content, it's always going to be on this channel. So you never have to worry about the van trucking market update not being on this channel. I'll always make it for this channel. This channel comes first before everything. But I'm hoping that I can drive more traffic to it from other sources and really get the needle moving here. If you could, I would appreciate if I'm not going to ask you for a like today. I'm going to ask you to talk to one of your intelligent friends and point them in the direction of what I'm doing here, right? If you think they'll actually watch it, right? Don't do the friend that is all talk and no walk. I don't want that person. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. I hope y'all are staying safe out there. Y'all keep that shiny side up. But as always, stay dry. I'll see you tomorrow.